If you're watching this, you're most likely familiar with what happened recently. Henry Cavill announced his departure from Netflix's Witcher after season 3. Liam Hemsworth will take up the role from now on. Boom, you're all caught up. Well, are you though? Yes. No. I mean, there's more to this than meets the eye. This seemingly out of nowhere decision to leave came as a surprise, considering Henry has been hailed as a highlight for his role as Geralt of Rivia in Netflix's Witcher series. But evidence had been brought forefront of bigger story boiling underneath. Henry Cavill had been vocal about his passion for the source material for years, especially at the start of the series. But now with this news breaking, it's apparent that this sentiment has not been shared in a writer's room behind the show. Showrunner Lauren Hisrick stated in an interview that she had received notes from Henry asking for more lines of dialogue. Everybody came out of season 1 laughing and loving Geralt's fuming. Later, Henry explained that the things he pushed for weren't necessarily more dialogue. It was bringing a more book-accurate Geralt to the screen. Because I'm sure you know, in the books, Geralt is an amateur philosopher. He's an intellectual. He's wise and thoughtful. Yes, he's at times morose, morbid, and snarky. But it's important for me to have the character to be three-dimensional. Rumors surrounding the writer's room had reached the surface level as well, questioning the source material and straight up mocking it. If rumors are true, then it signals the larger issue that had been emerging from the last couple of months in Hollywood. A trend that has been worrying from the start has only gotten worse over time as new releases coming out speak volumes for themselves. Tentpole projects are being helmed by creators that have no respect, knowledge, interest, or care for the source material. Was it always like that? Or are we experiencing a new trend in Hollywood? Yes, it was always like that, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Witcher Season 1 for me was the best thing Netflix made since the first season of Stranger Things. I enjoyed the show a lot more than I probably should have. From the very first fight in the swamps to the absolutely mind-bending finale later on, it just hit the spot. Well written, morally grey stories in almost every episode, and the ambiguous story structure that brought fire into a big-budget show like this. The relationships were done maturely and appropriately. Every interaction between Geralt and Yennefer felt loaded, horny, and unpredictable. The whole arc of Geralt's lost surprise and how Ciri came into play blew me away. Geralt's weight of expression on his face, the horrors he witnessed being a nearly mortal man, and the absolutely dark and unpredictable place that was the continent. It's safe to say I haven't had a chance to read the books, so every turn and event felt new and inspired. But then, the second season came along and, well, I don't have a lot to say about it. Yen's powers being missing for the majority of the season, while we spent the whole previous one following her cultivating these powers, basically walking through hell for them. It felt odd choice from a storytelling standpoint, especially that having these powers back would have solved many storylines issues, which in turn answers why these powers were gone in the first place. Hold on. Yeah. My sentiment was confirmed. Yennefer never lost her powers in the books, which in turn answers why these powers were gone in the first place. Why? Tell me, Lauren, why did she lose her powers for the entire season? The whole story sagged because of it. The momentum of the first season brought on was extinguished from the first episodes. While I binged the first season in days, I could barely remember to finish the second one in months. It was unengaging, uninspired, no new adventures, nothing new on Geralt's front, and nothing much new on Ciri's either. We saw her training for the entire season, and for what? We knew that she was a fighter from the first season. This brought nothing new to the character. It just gave another reason for Geralt to be in danger because he's now taking care of Ciri. What was the reason for this, Lauren? You had one job. You had everything laid in front of you for the next season. Why take it and rip it apart like that? Henry Cavill had agreed to Netflix's 7-season plan with one condition. Story had to stick to the source material. No wonder he exited. I'm even surprised he stayed after season 1, because if I would have gotten that script, I would have sued to oblivion to get out of that contract. Oh wait! When asked about it in an interview regarding season 2, Henry replied, I wanted to be more book accurate, and so it was more to do with making sure and campaigning for him to sound more intellectual, more philosophical, and to have an emotional side as well, rather than just be a grumpy snowman. Every day I was pushing this stuff as far as prep goes. Henry's words speak of passion for the books, for the characters, for the world, and for the stories. He is passionate about bringing these characters to life, introducing an entire new generation of fanbase to the books. He knew that giving this face and name to the project will bring eyeballs to it. Examples of this are rare to find. Someone that is passionate enough to campaign for source material to be accurately portrayed, and you let him go away, Lauren. We, as creators, should understand that you do not put down the passion. You embrace it. You fuel it. Passion is a strong material that can hold continents together. It's not easy to come by. If you don't care about the project or even openly mock them, why take up the reins of showrunner if all you care about is telling your own story? The answer is simple, Lauren. Arrogance. Why are we still here? Just to suffer. Why do you do something if you inherently dislike it? You've been probably tired of listening to endless criticisms of Rings of Power. And here's a little more. It's the biggest show on the planet after all. The most expensive one, and surely the best. Surely. They took all the best tricks and tips from its competitors on how to market and tackle this material. From the very get-go, they made important moves to alienate the core fan base of Lord of the Rings, films and books alike, ignoring the plain fact that it's not even a book that they are adapting. They threw around everybody's beloved phrases like updated to modern audiences. We want stories to reflect the modern day standards, and the rest of the crap that nobody knows the hell it means. Before I say what I'm about to say, I am aware of the fact that these creators I'm about to mention did not start these controversies themselves. But if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't be talking about it in the first place. The showrunners of Rings of Power had no previous experiences running anything. $1 billion for this masterwork. Let that sink in. Amazon planned to release this show and it was too big to completely fail. Yet it somehow managed to, at the hands of the most competent people, to helm a $1 billion investment. I mean, they got the job. If this would be a Shark Tank, Mark Cuban would call them con artists. But Amazon, oh no, Amazon saw them fit perfectly. Oh, and fit they did. Going hand in hand, they broke every hope that fans built. Oh, silly they. Expecting that the source material would be respected. They called them Tolkien purists, further upsetting what's left of the willing participants. Now they worry as a direct competitor in House of Dragon had avoided these pitfalls that weren't there in the first place. They even redeemed itself in front of these hardcore fans that have been burned by the Game of Thrones abysmal finale. If someone competent was at the helm, we wouldn't be using accusations before even seeing a moving frame from the show. We would let the show speak for itself and silence the naysayers. The only thing that is leading these showrunners forward of already established fan bases is pure arrogance. There's very little logic otherwise. It takes balls to adapt pre-existing material into something that is not, but it takes arrogance to make it a vessel of your own story. The reason I know this, and I can talk about it confidently, is because I had myself been in this place before. Many years ago, a friend of mine approached me to adapt a book she so profoundly loved. I made a promise to her that if that's what she wanted to do, I'll do my best. And the journey of reading the book with the intent to adapt it started. It felt different from what I would usually read, and especially make it into a movie. But after finishing it, I just absolutely hated it. I hated the characters, the story, and the style it was written in. Everything just repulsed me. I've even put stickers on the cover to show how much I detested it. But I stick to my guns, and the adaptation was going all the way. To open a movie, I invented a scene that does not take place in a book, not realizing that there's a reason this particular scene does not exist. I've made fun of the characters and their motivations in certain scenes, only because it didn't make sense to me. I've changed entire scenes and their order just because I was the wrong person to adapt that book. I was driven purely by arrogance, clenching on this opportunity even if I perfectly realized I cursed that book. I thought I could make it somehow better. Does it ring any bells? Pure arrogance. That's why I'm being vocal about it right now. The fan base of these shows are rightfully agitated. They're vocal about their distaste no matter how much you point a finger and shout the accusations. Everyone who witnesses this knows in the back of their head that something had gone wrong. And that will always be Because you can't hide the truth that you don't really care. So, is it a new trend? And what does it all mean? The truth is that this is nothing new to the Hollywood system. You don't even need to look far back to see the consequences of that. The Game of Thrones finale fiasco speaks for itself. It happened as it did only because the showrunners ran out of material to adapt and now had to improvise themselves, rely on the creative knowledge they have accumulated over 8 seasons of adapting George's great books. How can you go wrong? They themselves admitted that running this show was kind of a film school for them. And what school it was! 10 million per episode to experiment on. Going back further, Ryan Reynolds openly spoke about Deadpool's treatment in Origins Wolverine, producers changing characters so much that the final result became an instant meme. The list goes further deep down. The fact of the matter is, this is nothing new in the studio system. Properties getting trashed almost all the time, but looking back, no matter how you do it, it's obviously that the frequency had increased. And the only reason for the increase is the streaming wars for our eyeballs. I want to open with a passage from The Ape and Essence by Aldous Huxley. A loud tooting made us both jump. Look out! Bob caught my arm and pulled me back. From the courtyard into the rear of the story department, a 2-ton truck emerged into a roadway. Why don't you look where you're going? Shouted the driver as he passed. Idiot! Bob yelled back, then turned to me. Did you see what it's loaded with? He asked. Scripts. He shook his head, taking them to the incinerator, which is where they belong. $1 million worth of literature. So why writers can't care less about the material they are being asked to adapt? It's because very good writers are few and far between, and when an opportunity presents itself, they are quickly to jump on it, not considering their connection or lack thereof with the material. Now with the streaming wars raging on, there has been a major influx of projects coming out, meaning more writers and directors are getting a shot at stardom. Blinded by the potential, they get caught up in their arrogance, telling us, the viewers, what is best for us. While 20 or 30 years ago, they would have most likely not made the cut. But what do I know? I'll just let the legend himself, Sid Field, in his book Screenplay speak for me. I read and synopsized more than 2,000 screenplays in a little over 2 years. And of all those 2,000 screenplays, I only found 40 to submit to our financial partners for possible film production.